Hey guys, so it's Friday and we're going to talk about techniques and tricks to use for playing and getting a good punk bass sound. Now, you listen to a lot of punk bass recordings. They get, decent low end. They get good low end because as a bassist you got to be able to get that low end sound. But you also, more times than not, you also hear a very overridden sound, a very overdriven sound. Now, I have a distortion pedal. I'm still figuring out the kinks in it so that I can get it to play and get the right tone that I'm looking for without taking out too much in regards to volume. But what I do is that I tend to boost the highs and the mids in my frequency range on my actual amp, just so I can get a little extra cut and just a little grittier tone. It's a lot grittier than going for the regular tone that I would try to get, which is, kind of a deep, warm sound with slight mid-range punch, not so much on the highs. But upper mids definitely boost the highs in your frequency level, and you can get a very, very nice punchy sound. That is a good go-to goal for punk bass, a nice punchy sound. Now, another thing to keep in mind is your actual right hand technique. Now, I'm going to say play with a pick, just because there are plenty of punk songs out there that are at a faster tempo where you can execute the patterns and just everything a little bit more precisely and on the mark than with a pick than you can with a fingers. If you're going to do it with your fingers, what you got to be able to keep in mind is how much you're letting the strings ring out. And if you want to play with your fingers and you're playing like speedy hardcore punk, I suggest you really start looking into left hand muting. And basically what it is you fret with your left hand, but your other fingers that you're not using, you lay them across the string in such a way that it's not letting the strings ring out, but choking it off in such a way that it sounds like palm muting. That's left hand. This is palm muting with a pick. Now, it depends on, that whole muting thing depends on what the sound wants to be for the band. Granted, you can strive for getting, kind of more of an open, ringier, sloppier thing. Or you could go for something that's just a little bit more crisper, a little bit more punchier in just articulation, and make sure everything's nice and muted. So these are definitely things to keep in mind when you're working on your punk sound, because you want to get something that is definitely within more of the supportive role of the bass, because you see a lot of very simple supportive bass lines out there in punk, but you also want it to cut through the mix a little bit. You want to give it a little bit more grit and dirt, because that's very much a punk sound with all the guitars. Like, the guitar tones in punk are just a little bit more on the higher range of the spectrum, where you get more of a buzzsaw kind of sound than your traditional, ride the low end heavy metal kind of sound. So for punk, definitely, if you don't want to go the distortion pedal route, boost the mids, boost the highs, lower the lows, just so things can cut through a little bit more crisper and you're well on your way. From there, it's all about experimentation and finding the right sound, but that's a good place to start. A nice punchy, mid to high rangey sound, and again, it's about experimenting with what feels better, and more times than not in punk, I feel better playing with a pick. See you all in a week.